also, one of the things I love about it is apparently Michael Schur says he pitched the show to be about female friendship, which is really
Oh,
lovely. And you can tell that from like Anne and Leslie. It's just
yeah.
so like to say it was written by just this man. I think it's a really authentic look at female friendship. Like
I think it is, yeah.
Leslie calling Anne all those like being like lovely, beautiful Anne, like all of this. That's what you do. Like you just
Yeah,
like the amount of love that you sometimes have for your female friends is just
yeah,
so lovely. And it's nice like the birthday parties Leslie throws for Anne, the
yeah.
just constant support. And like all the women in that show have a nice friendship. Like
Yeah,
eventually,
I
even
love that.
April, who hates Anne, they eventually have like kind of a nice thing going on.
Yeah.
I just think as much like the and the men. I'm gonna get onto this later. Pretty like I feel like every character in that was quite well rounded.
Yeah,
They all
absolutely, I
had their
think.
individual thing, and the reason I'm gonna get onto this later is I think kind of makes sense when we've spoken through everything. But Michael Schur uses these same character archetypes every time, and
Yeah.
it works. Like I don't have a criticism of it. So like they evolve in ways, but one I think we've spoken about this in one of our episodes before. He writes himbos,
Yeah.
and I love it. I love it. I love a himbo.
But yeah, I think I came again, it was like a Tumblr thing that you saw the
Yeah,
memes. So I think I watched that and then I watched Parks and Rec. So I kind of watched them in chronological order, really.
yeah,
Um, but I really enjoyed the dynamic of it. I definitely think it's shaped a little bit of thinking, oh, well, maybe I could work in politics. Like I
right. It's the same with The Office. Like it does
Mm,
kind of make you think like, oh, jobs aren't all terrible, which
yeah.
is not always great. And also, the Parks and Rec does this a lot more than The Office because I don't really think The Office does it. But it has this idea of like people are doing this job because they want to improve the world.
Yes.
Not wrong, but other than
People are
that,
good at the heart of everything.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
also following this, all of Michael Schur's shows do kind of have that same motif of people deep down are good and want to do
Yeah.
the right thing. And if they're not good, there's a reason behind that. And
Yeah.
that's understandable, which is one of the
Mm.
best things about them, I think.
I think so. And
Yeah.
I think that's why they feel so authentic because they are funny, but at the heart of it, people are trying to be good people. And I actually think it's a really interesting look at kind of a way into looking at American politics and the dynamics because it's like a
Yes.
microcosm of the whole system
Mm-hmm.
and kind of this like liberal feminism, how that, the girl boss that Leslie
Oh,
is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that worms its way into it. But then you've got like the libertarian and
Ron.
Ron
Yeah.
and actually and like Councilman Jam, like there's this big factory that like
Yeah.
Sweetums that employs all these different people. Like this, that's a microcosm of how like a lot of it, not here
Yeah.
necessarily in the UK, but in
But
America, that's how like a lot of town structures are formed. So I think I really enjoyed it for that, and it's not necessarily
yeah.
like super political, but
No,
it's
but at the same
Bobby
time,
Newport.
that's literally what I was going to say. One of the episodes I love the most, but honestly, it broke my heart so much every time I watch it. When Leslie loses,
Yeah,
like she doesn't get councilwoman or something to Bobby Newport, and like how heartbroken she is in that
yeah,
moment. And I was like, it's it's so sad to see, and I feel like a lot of people have been there. And it's like when you've worked so hard for something and you don't get it,
yeah,
so it's real. Like I feel like you
yeah,
expected it to end with her getting it because she's
yeah,
the one that's worked hard for it. But realistically,
yeah,
that's not what happens. And I feel like it was at the time or around the time I was watching it, it made so much sense because we had like Hillary versus Donald Trump. And that's not me being
yes,
like, obviously, I've got a lot of criticism of Hillary, but she was the one that was working hard. She'd put her
yeah.
everything into it. And you look at Trump, and he was kind of like this Bobby Newport character. I mean, I love Bobby Newport. He's so much better than Trump. But
Yeah,
like Trump was this Bobby Newport who just had
yeah,
all this money, came in and was just saying like these such stupid things
yeah,
but people resonated with it and
yeah.
also there was like money involved like it was very monetary
And they
and it was
hated
like
Hillary so much that they would vote for Donald Trump.
literally and it was
Yeah,
like it broke my heart because I was like this is what happens like
yeah,
realistically this is politics this is
yeah.
how it works that the people who actually want to do good more often than not are not the ones that are getting elected
No.
and that's
And
not me like I'm not defending Hillary against all valid
oh no, no,
criticism
no.
no not at
No,
all
but I think you definitely see what happened, because this came out like it was in the run up to it, and I definitely
Yeah.
think it started to reflect it, especially when they started to get into like bigger political campaigns in the later series, especially when
100%.
Ben goes off. Just you talking about Bobby Newport, I remembered the political guy, the politician that Ben's trying to get to go into Congress or
Yeah.
something when he's in Washington. And this guy just sits in a room and smiles and like stares at them, and
Yeah.
he's like there's nothing in his head. There's like absolutely,
100%.
I think it's such an interesting and I feel like Veep does it, but like darker. And
Oh
obviously,
yeah. Yeah.
Iannucci did what he did for the thick of it, but just in America. So
Yeah.
of course he's like predicted what's happening now. But I think it's like a comical look at it rather than just being like we're all doomed and depressed and
I
it's
think
going downhill.
100%. I think that's why like sometimes it surprises you in that like it's such a funny show and then they
Yes.
throw in something that's kind of heartbreaking and you're like,
Yeah.
what? Sorry, I didn't want to
Didn't sign
cry
up for this.
today.